Hello there, TV fans, and welcome to episode 2 of Episodic Breakdown, where we take a television series and break it down scene by scene to try and understand it a little bit better and to promote discussion. If you want to participate, please subscribe, ring the bell so you don't miss any future content, like and share with your friends. I'll be showing images from a scene and describing what's on screen. This way, we can have an understanding and context of what we're about to talk about, and it'll be a nice refresher for those that have seen the show and might not remember everything that happened in the scene. If you notice something I missed, please leave a comment. I'd like to engage you folks as much as possible. As I was editing this together, I noticed a small detail I didn't catch the first time around, nor the second, but I did catch it in the edit, and it's worth talking about. So please stick around to the end, because I'm going to be talking about it at the end of the primary video, just to let you know what I found, and that it's very interesting, and I think you folks might like it as well. And now it is actually going to be a common theme that I'm going to be talking about probably throughout the series. Okay, so this is the second part of the Watchmen breakdown, and it's going to be spoiler heavy. We're going to be talking about the comic freely, and we're going to be talking about the overall series freely. So if you haven't watched, spoiler warning. This is going to be a heavy discussion, and we're not going to be leaving any stone unturned. If you'd like to read the book or watch the show, I'm going to leave links in the description so you can check them out. Okay, so let's get into it. Okay, so let's get into it. The previous scene left with Will Reeves walking down the dirt road, leaving a burning Tulsa, Oklahoma behind him in 1921. We now transition to modern day, and the dirt road is now a paved one, and there's a pickup truck coming down the road. We go inside the vehicle, and there's something unusual about this dashboard. There is a white male drinking a soda, and he looks like your average farmer. As he drives, a police siren goes off, and he sees police lights in his rearview mirror. He spills the soda a bit and places it in a holder as he pulls over. As a policeman approaches the vehicle, the man has an "oh shit" look on his face, as if he has something to hide, and he's not going to let this officer know what that is. But as the policeman approaches the car, that demeanor changes into one of false smiles to try and placate the officer and get out of whatever this is. The policeman is at the door of the truck, and the first thing he says with a very serious tone, "This interaction is being recorded. Do you consent?" The man in the truck, smiling and nervous at the same time, says, "Yes, sir, sure." Very compliant. It, from all appearances, does not seem that saying no will lead to a positive outcome. The policeman states the date and time as 9:35 p.m., September 8th, 2019, initiated traffic stop. The show premiered on October 20th, 2019, so this show is pretty current to the real-world timeline when aired. So with the bureaucratic part of the interaction done, the policeman starts interacting with the driver. The policeman starts with, "How are you doing?" The man, smiling, but clearly having something to hide, but appears to be cooperating, says, "Fine, good, thanks. How are you?" I like the fact that the actor is playing this all polite with the barest hint of menace. The policeman asks, "What are you drinking?" The man replies, "Coca-Cola." Then the policeman asks, "What are you hauling?" The man says, "Lettuce." The policeman then says, "May I take a look?" And the man replies, "Can I take a look at your face?" Now, up until this point, we have not seen the police officer. The camera pans up, and we see a black policeman wearing a yellow face mask. The policeman now says in a very serious tone that says that this routine traffic stop just became something else. "What did you just say to me?" The man says, I'm sorry, officer, I was just kidding." But it is too late. Apparently, this just escalated, and a routine traffic stop that could have been for anything just got turned up to 11. The policeman simply states in his best "don't fuck with me" voice for the driver's license and registration. The man is now wearing the "oh shit, I have gone and fucked up" face. He tells the policeman they are in the glove compartment. Despite all these vibes, we are picking up off the driver that he's up to no good. He is cooperating. He has had his hands on the wheel since the beginning of the stop. The policeman then says, "Go ahead," and the man goes into his glove compartment, and we see a white mask with black marking, familiar to us as a cheap knockoff Rorschach mask. This catches the policeman's eye, and he is not happy that he saw that. He is now staring at the driver as he fumbles through the paperwork. The policeman takes the paperwork and brings it to his police car. Once in his car, he gets on his radio, and then he advises 3-5 return the vehicle and needs weapons author, who is on the desk. The unseen woman on the other end says, "Panda, I will patch you through." Policeman says, shit, no, wait, is there anyone else? But before anything else can happen, Panda comes on the radio and simply says, this is Panda, what's up? The policeman looks frustrated that he has to explain himself to Panda to get his weapon released. The policeman explains that he has made a traffic stop and that the driver refused a search of his truck and that he had found cavalry contraband in the glove compartment. At this point, we see the officer put his hand around the weapon, which is locked in place by a yellow mechanism. The officer then asks for a firearm lock release. Now Panda is asking what kind of contraband. The officer replies it was a Rorschach mask. Panda replies, are you sure? The officer replies, I saw it. Come on, release my weapon. Panda is not done with the questions. He asks about probability of drugs or alcohol in the vehicle, to which the officer replies high. Panda then asks about the probability of weapons or explosive in the vehicle. The officer again replies high. Panda is still asking questions. Up next is, what is the overall perceived threat from the subject? Now things are tense. The police officer, clearly losing his patience, waiting for his weapon, replies, high. The policeman, calming down a bit, says, just buzz me, okay? And Panda says, stand by. And a moment later, we hear a buzz, but the gun does not release. Something has gone wrong. After the third buzz, the gun is released, and Panda asks if we are good. The officer replies, yeah, I got it, thank you. But it is too late. We hear a high-powered weapon go off, and the officer is shot right where he was through the windshield. It was the driver that shot the police officer, and now he is wearing his Rorschach mask. The driver then takes a head of lettuce, throws it through the gaping hole in the windshield left by the gunfire, and it lands on the police officer's lap. We hear a ticking of something in the police car, like the ticking of a watch, which is a common motif of Watchmen. Okay, so let's unpack this, as there is nothing routine about this traffic stop as we would understand them. First, it might be worth the audible difference in both vehicles. Neither of them have the sound of a gasoline engine, but they do have the whine an electric engine might have. So let's look at the truck's dashboard and see what we might glean from that. We now know it is 2019, so the truck the man is driving is older. We are seeing something that is measuring how much charge is in the battery. It is currently at 54%, and it is reading like a gas gauge. We know from the comic that Dr. Manhattan made lithium batteries plentiful in the 80s, and the 80s vintage-looking truck was likely converted at that time when the batteries were plentiful, and Dr. Manhattan has not left Earth yet. A closer look at the dashboard confirms this. The gas tank is on empty, and the man is in the middle of nowhere leaving the city. I found it kind of the reversal here, where a black officer was pulling over a white man for no obvious reason. Not sure if that was a point we are supposed to pick up, but I gave it a thought. The first thing the officer says is something that you and I would not likely hear, but I am curious, what are your thoughts? Do you think that when a police officer was to pull you over, do you think it would be a good idea or a bad idea to have it recorded? I can actually objectively see the two sides of this, both the good and the bad. I tend to critically think things through, and I would like to hear your input. The next thing is the fact that the officer is wearing a mask, and when the driver asks to see his face, the interaction just got hot. It seems like something you just wouldn't say if you want to get out of that ticket. Do you think this is a good idea? Masked police officers where you don't know their identity? There is a reason for this in the story that has some logic, and we'll talk about it as the story progresses. But at face value, do you think this is a good idea? If so, why? And if not, why? When the man goes into the glove compartment, we see the Rorschach mask, and things just got up to 11. But apparently just having a cheap knockoff of a Rorschach mask is contraband. I am immediately curious as to why. Especially a mask of a man that has been dead for about 33 years. A masked vigilante who was unmasked and discredited with time served in prison. So now that the situation has turned hot, and the driver did not give permission to search the truck, the policeman goes to the vehicle to get his weapon. The fact that it is not on his hip is odd. What is even odder is it's locked in the vehicle and needs remote authorization to get unlocked for use. This is a huge difference from what we are used to here. There are some nations where police do not have firearms, such as in the UK. This is not a political discussion or observation, just talking about this as fact. Certain law enforcement in the UK do have firearms. But the point is that there is a social contract in the UK. You get arrested by the police, it will not be under the threat of a gun. Again, not a political statement, just pointing out the social contract. In the US, just about every policeman has a firearm with the idea to protect themselves or another in the event of another threatening person. Our social contract is that if you do something unlawful and are a potential danger to someone, you may come under fire from the police. So, if one is shot, it happens knowing the social contract. But here, it is neither, and it is dangerous. The social contract here is, I know the police have a gun, and if I want to do something that will hurt someone, I better do it quick. As we see what happened here, because the officer could not get his weapon fast enough, it led him to being shot before he could defend himself. If he had the discretion to use the weapon as he saw fit, this might have been very, very different. If he had no access to a firearm, as with someone in the UK, he could have perhaps had this man shortly detained while getting a search order. In either case, this middle-of-the-road idea does not seem that great to me. How about you? What are your thoughts? Lastly, we see the man throw the lettuce into the officer's lap, and this just seems like a gesture of contempt. But that ends this scene, so let's move into the next one. We open to an all-black stage production of Oklahoma. The audience watching is of mixed race. Two of the people watching are Don Johnson's character, Judd Crawford, and his wife, Jane Crawford, played by Frances Fisher. An officer, masked just like the officer in the traffic stop, enters the theater and approaches Judd Crawford. After a short conversation, we see Judd Crawford say something to his wife, he puts on his hat, and he leaves the theater as we transition to a hospital hallway, and he is walking with a purpose. As he walks down the hallway, we see several officers all wearing the same yellow mask, and we realize Judd is the police chief and so far is the only law enforcement walking around freely without a mask. In the hospital, he meets up with a man named Wade Tillman, aka Looking Glass, played by Tim Blake Nelson. He is also a police officer, and he's wearing a reflective pullover mask but is not pulled down over his face at this time. We now find out the officer shot during the traffic stop survived. Judd then asks Looking Glass, "You've run background checks on all the nurses and orderlies that saw his face?" Looking Glass confirms that he has. Looking Glass advises that roadblocks have been set up, but thinks that the guy is in hiding. The police check the address on his driver's license, and the house is abandoned and boarded up. Judd asks, "Calvary?" To which Looking Glass replies, "More than likely." Looking Glass asks if he should call Red and Night. Judd says no, let them sleep. Looking Glass says, "She's gonna be pissed," referring to Night. Judd asks, why would they start this shit up again? Looking Glass says, maybe there was something in the truck that they did not want found. They talk a little bit about the lettuce being in the officer's car, but Judd simply says, "You don't start a war over goddamn lettuce, Wade." This conversation is happening while Judd puts on his police chief uniform. As we leave the scene, Judd tells Looking Glass to put his face down, and Wade brings the mask down fully. Judd then straightens his tie in the reflection. So again, there are some odd things here. First, we now see all police officers wear a yellow mask as part of their uniform. We see that ranking officers can wear other types of masks, as is the case with Looking Glass, who is a detective. The next odd thing is Judd asking Looking Glass if the medical staff that saw the officer's face had a background check. They did all pass and it turned out fine, but it makes me wonder exactly what would have happened if they didn't. So what do you think happens to someone that sees an officer or knows their identity? I don't suspect anything good, but it is not clear or ever really told us what could happen. Apparently an officer's identity is taken very seriously, and we're going to be learning more about that in the next scene. So Judd and Wade leave the hospital, and there are 3 black unmarked vehicles speeding off somewhere in the dead of night. They go to the wife of the police officer that was shot. Judd Crawford goes up to the door, while the rest of the police stand guard at a slight distance. We now know that the officer formerly known as 3-5, even their names are not discussed on the job, is Charlie Sutton, and we're meeting his wife Roberta. This is something that I think is one of the most difficult roles for a police officer, going to someone's home to deliver bad news. So Judd tells Roberta what happened to her husband, and he does show actual concern and empathy. But the conversation goes further. He tells her that once he recovers well enough, they are going to move him to a secure medical facility at the precinct. She asks if she can see her husband, and Judd replies, of course. Now he loses just a bit of his empathic behavior. He becomes very direct, and he asks her if he told anyone he was police. Roberta replies, no, it is against the rules. Judd states, people still talk. Roberta replies firmly, a bit hurt and insulted by the question, he didn't. Judd, not satisfied, continues, where did he tell folks he went when he was on shift? Roberta simply replies, night school for engineering. This seems to satisfy Judd, and he says all right. Judd then advises of the cover story for why Charlie got shot, that there was a carjacking and he got shot leaving school. Roberta, upset, but still keeping her composure, simply says why. Judd says, "We just want to keep everyone safe." Roberta kind of scoffs at this while saying, "Safe." Judd accepts her feelings and even says, "I know what you're thinking. Fuck me and the horse I rode in on." At no time does he belittle her or the situation, and he does acknowledge that it is not easy for her. Roberta then says, "He liked you." Judd acknowledges this and empathically holds her hand and gives her a smile. When he did this, he says, "No, he likes me," trying to have Roberta focus on her husband recovering and not thinking of him in the past tense. As we transition to the next scene, the camera pans across the TV screen in Roberta's house, and we see Dr. Manhattan on Mars destroying a structure on a live news stream. So what can we get from this conversation? I think he might have been concerned that someone might have known the officer's identity, which is why there were many police outside the house, in case of any hostiles. Ultimately, I think Judd was more concerned about Charlie Sutton's identity getting out. He went to Roberta, not just to tell her what happened, but also to make sure that they did not reveal he was a police officer. We still do not know why their identity must be secret, but we can glean from these scenes that it was for a very good one. As we watch this series, we do know that it is a very good one, but we're going to save that conversation for when that occurs. But let's just suffice to say that it was a very bad evening and many police officers were killed. Knowing that Judd Crawford is actually a white supremacist, as we learn from later episodes, adds a lot of layers to this character and how he's playing it in this scene. How much of his concern here was absolute bullshit? Or was there something genuine there despite everything, and he was kind of fighting the way he was raised? Again, think back to that black and white movie from the opening of the series and how it plays with who is the good guy and who is the bad guy and why it's all gray, and don't expect anything to be what you think it is at face value. I do think it's great that this scene ends with Dr. Manhattan on the TV screen. The person speaking is Regina King's character, and she does become the new Dr. Manhattan. So her talking over this scene was a huge foreshadowing I wasn't even looking for. What I am wondering though, and I am thinking about now is that really Dr. Manhattan? And if it is he allowing himself to be broadcast? Does he even care? Is that even him or just one of his doppelgangers? So if Dr. Manhattan is on Earth, living as a human, and he gave up his powers, and he doesn't even remember that he was a Dr. Manhattan, what are we looking at here? I didn't know I should have been paying attention to this scene the first time I watched, but knowing what I know now, I'm going to be trying to pay attention to see if there's some additional clues as to why we're looking at the not Dr. Manhattan on Mars. I am so glad I am rewatching this series. This breakdown is my second viewing, so I am enjoying thinking about this. I can't wait to see the answer to the question I have about Dr. Manhattan. So this ends the second episode of Episodic Breakdown. Tune in next time when we meet Regina King's character, Angela Abar, aka Sister Night, one of television's most, if not top, contender of beautiful badasses on screen. Okay, thanks for sticking around, and now on to the bonus content. As I was editing this together, there is something that came up that makes me want to pay attention as we're doing future episodes, and that is about Judd Crawford. And is Judd Crawford actually a racist? Judd is killed at the end of the episode, and he's killed by Will Reeves, aka Hooded Justice, and who at this stage in his life is a 105-year-old man, and the fact that he's stuck in a wheelchair really is intriguing as to how he might have killed this character. He did make an odd comment that we're going to be talking about or looking at soon, but let's save that comment for when it comes up. As we watch Judd Crawford, it does not appear that he is a racist, despite the fact that he has his father's Ku Klux Klan uniform in the closet. Okay, so the question is, was Judd Crawford a racist? Was he part of Cavalry's agenda to kill Dr. Manhattan, steal his powers, and use it for a white nationalist agenda? Was he actually not a racist, but actually working from within to take down the cavalry? These are things that are worth paying attention to as you rewatch this series, and I hope you watch these with me and are thinking about these as you watch. The next question I have is about Will Reeves. Was he justified in killing Judd? Was Judd actually part of the plan to kill Dr. Manhattan for a white nationalist agenda? Or did he do revenge on an innocent man he just thought was a nationalist? or thought was a racist. It is possible that Judd was working from within to take out the cavalry. This all goes back to everything that I was saying at the beginning about Will and his path of justice or revenge in the role of hooded justice. So let's look at the reasons why he may not be a racist. 1, he's at an all-black production of Oklahoma. 2, after he finds out the officer is shot and he goes to the hospital, he seems to show genuine concern for the officer. When Judd says, "Why would they start this shit up again?" it seems like he's genuinely tired of the cavalry's behavior and dealing with this stuff. It just seems odd to me that he would just say this for looking glass benefit. And of course, his conversation with Roberta. It does seem like he was genuinely concerned for her and that her husband was in critical condition. Okay, now let's talk about if he is a racist. Well, for one, he is most definitely married to a racist and a member of the cavalry. Okay, so now we come to the point where I was doing the edit and it prompted this thought of is he or is he not a racist? The great thing about Watchmen, in my opinion, is that it's subject to interpretation. It asks you to pay attention and to form your own opinion. And this is definitely in that category. So let's dig into that scene. Okay, I was looking at the stills, and I'm looking at the audience at the stage play of Oklahoma. And I noticed something. The entire theater is packed. Not a seat in the house, except for two. 2 seats. They do bother to show us the seats as the camera pans over the area. The 2 seats are next to Jane Crawford, Judd's wife. When we first watched this show, we didn't know she was a white supremacist, so we didn't know we should be looking for something. But of course, we do learn that she is most definitely a white supremacist of the worst variety. There is a few things we can infer from these empty seats. 1, they just happen to not get sold. This entire theater is sold out. There's 2 empty seats, and for whatever reason, these 2 seats just didn't sell. I don't think that's likely. 2, the couple that was supposed to go to this show, their car broke down or something happened, and they couldn't make it. So the 2 seats just remained empty. Again, unlikely. And especially when you consider that the camera bothered to pan across the 2 empty seats, I think they wanted us to realize those seats were empty. The third option is that the Crawfords bought 4 tickets. Judd is sitting on the end, so he's assured of not sitting next to anybody, except for his wife. His wife is to his left, and there's 2 empty seats, and the person sitting closest to them is 3 seats away. To me, I just don't think she wanted to take a chance of sitting next to black people. In either case, Judd has to be a great actor. He has to be able to infiltrate cavalry to be able to take it down from the inside, or he's very good at hiding his contempt for black people. He's actually able to show empathy, and that empathy seems real. So we're going to be talking about Judd throughout the series. Okay, so that is the second episode of Episodic Breakdown. I hope you liked what you watched, and please leave a comment. I'd love to hear what you think about some of the things we talked about today. I hope you want to take out your magnifying glass with me and leave no stone unturned. Please subscribe and ring the bell so you don't miss future content. Like and share with your friends. Thanks again, and keep on watching, listening, and reading.